I would say one of the most impactful programming that I've experienced is like Disney movies and romantic comedies. As a young girl, I was definitely the target market for that. And
What?
who knew? You know, especially Disney movies, like women having to be like the sacrificial beings in the dynamic of a relationship in order to have it. Like the Little Mermaid giving up her fins, you know, for Eric's so weak ass.
My value wasn't placed in what I thought about myself early on, and was more, you know, focused on what I could get out of getting this pseudo validation from women early on in my life.
What programming gave you that narrative?
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yeah, man. I mean, so many things. Cartoons, even the skunk on the Looney Tunes.
Pepe Le Pew?
And yeah, just like, you know, music. I mean, yeah, everything, man. It was that's all it was, and I can only imagine if I did not have that as, you know, a driving force in my life early on, where I would be now. Welcome to the Let There Be Art podcast, where we weigh in on a wide range of topics from entertainment, politics, relationships to health, because everything is a reflection of art. I'm your host, Devin Mykel, along with my co-host and beautiful wife, Jade Novah, an amazing singer, songwriter, and actress who's been featured on Essence and Tamron Hall. Jade is an NAACP-nominated artist who's been streamed and viewed over 150 million times as a fully independent creator. I'm a music producer, musical director, composer, and industry veteran of over 15 years, and have worked with Rihanna, Nicki Minaj, and Toni Braxton, to name a few. We started the Let There Be Art podcast to encourage curiosity and to teach and inspire people in our community to build sustainable careers as independent creators from a holistic perspective that focuses on the mind, body, and soul. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about programming, the societal programming that we've all been subject to, whether that's from television, video games, school, all the different things that go into really shaping our viewpoint on this world, and that often doesn't come from our own minds. It comes from, you know, all these different things that we consume, our parents, our teachers, church, so many different things. So we've been on our deprogramming journey for a while now, and just really wanted to talk about the importance of being a free thinker and having your own mind and original thought, and becoming our best selves. Really wanted to touch on this, as this is an important part of especially becoming a business owner, and creator, and just even as a person, and coming into your higher self and your charged life.
All right, so let's get into our first segment. It's called Beyond the Bait. We're basically taking clips that have gone viral or just conversations that have gone viral, and just taking a deeper dive into it beyond just the clickbait. So this week we're talking about Pharrell. He's I think he had an interview with the Hollywood Reporter. Yes. Just basically they were asking him about politics and musicians endorsing politicians, and what his stance was if he would ever let either of the candidates use his music in a campaign. And he had some interesting things to say, so I'll let you dive in there.
So Pharrell answered, "I don't do politics. In fact, I get annoyed sometimes when I see celebrities trying to tell you who to vote for. There are celebrities that I respect that have an opinion, but not all of them. I'm one of them people who says, what the heck? Shut up. Nobody asked you. When people get out there and get self-righteous and they roll up their sleeves and shit, and they are out there walking around with the placard, shut up. So no, I would rather stay out of the way. And obviously, I'm going to vote how I'm going to vote. I care about my people and I care about the country, but I feel there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm really about the action."
Oh, okay.
So what are your thoughts? We've talked about this, a bunch. over the last couple of elections. So
Yeah, well, to take it beyond the bait, I want to kind of talk about, because I read more of the article than just what people were choosing to talk about, and I think like the first thing he was asked, can you remind me the first thing that he was asked? Okay, right, they were asking how he was feeling about the election, and then asking him like to elaborate on it. He was kind of basically, in so many words, he was saying there are people who would be considered federal employees who are like in allegiance with a specific candidate, who are like an employee of a candidate, and then he's more of a humanitarian, someone who is for the people.
He said he believes he's a merited civil servant.
So that it's not necessarily attaching himself to a specific person, more so the things and the causes that are important to him, the things he's passionate about. He's putting his money where his mouth is by creating companies or initiatives that, you know, help to amplify or whatever it is that he's involved with, like aligning himself with those things and creating spaces for the things that he believes in. So he's basically saying, I'm not gonna look to a master or someone else because there are things that come along with those people that I may not be aligned with. So when you align yourself with the person and not the cause, you open yourself up to so much more than just the things that you're passionate about. It's everything that comes along with it. It's like a package deal. So I completely understand that mindset. I do think that, and we have talked about this before, that when it comes to celebrities and when it comes to politicians, there's very much a brand deal feel about endorsing someone, because it's like, we know that celebrities are influential people, so you understand that in you publicly saying who it is you're voting for, the impact that can have on people who may not know anything beyond the bait and the things that are being put in our face through the media. So it's like, I think it is important, not just for celebrities, but for the everyday person to figure out what it is that they're passionate about beyond the candidates and align themselves with causes, because we put too much power and hope
and money.
Exactly. We're putting our money without actually having any kind of accountability in getting that money or that support. It's like, oh, well, I'm for this cause and I'm for that cause, so I'm just gonna vote for the closest thing that fits it, instead of trying to urge them to set up things that actually make change. I understand.
Because a lot of these celebrity endorsements, typically, like you said, it feels like a brand deal, because a lot of them will have a website that it takes you to go register to vote. And I highly doubt, like, so for instance, Billie Eilish, she just did one the other day.
Yeah, with her brother.
And saying that they were endorsing Kamala. And I highly doubt that they put that up with that link in it without there being some type of financial exchange.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it, because even at the level of, you know, being an independent artist, when the vaccine was being pushed, we got emails asking for, like, saying that they would pay us to wear shirts, like different, you know, I can't remember what it was. I know it was around the same time when Wax and Vax and all that other kind of like cool hip stuff was going on. And it's like, you're paying, we know what the situation is, because if it's happening for us, there's no way that it's not happening on a major level. You know what I'm saying? So it's not even hearsay. This is stuff that we can attest to from our own experiences. And so it's a dangerous thing, I think, when you child, let me just let you talk.
Yeah, I mean, it's all brand deals. At the end of the day, you got look, you know, they were pushing the Pfizer vaccine the most, and they were one of the biggest corporations that were donating to Joe Biden's campaign. Like, they literally had the president of Pfizer on a press conference talking, like, when they had, like, announced the vaccine and everything. So it's always money involved. But I was also surprised that Pharrell said this, because I remember him endorsing Hillary Clinton. a while back. I can't remember if that was. I guess it was the 2016 election that he endorsed her, and he was talking on Ellen about that. So I'm curious of this cause, this him focusing on a cause versus him focusing on a candidate. Can you play that clip, Kalia?
I must ask your thoughts on the upcoming election.
Yeah, sure.
Let's. What are your thoughts?
It's time for a woman to be in there. Yeah. Because you know what? Women think about things in a holistic way. It's not just so individual. And I'm saying I'm happy to be a man, but I love women. And the thing is if we had somebody looking after our country that thought about things as a whole, I just feel like it just would be different. Not that I don't love our current president. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it's Hillary time.
It's Hillary time.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. I love Hillary, as you know.
Yeah. One of the greatest things is that this is the land of opportunity. One of the things that I feel like we could work on is that we're so easily sensationalized, and I feel like, people are like, okay, we need a president that we could play Scrabble and celebrity with, but that's not who's going to solve your problems. You need somebody that's going to take it serious. So she does have a serious tone, but I feel like when things get done, it's by someone who's being serious about it.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful thing.
We have become a society where it is all about personality and celebrity and charm instead of it being about the person who's going to get the job done.
There's some serious ladies out there right now.
I think that's such an interesting kind of contradictory thing. I'm not even just speaking of him saying that he thinks that you shouldn't endorse people and had endorsed people in the past, because people can change. Yeah. And, obviously when you wisdom, you're learning from your mistakes and you're understanding how things work. That isn't so much what feels contradictory as much as, them speaking on like the personality or the way that we're looking at how we choose candidates, but he led with the fact that she's a woman and never really mentioned policy as any kind of like indication that she would get the job done. So that's what I mean. It sounded kind of contradictory there, but
I don't know if being serious is enough to make a presidential candidate. So yeah,
and definitely not being a woman is enough. I mean, or being black is enough. I think that's the problem, is that we try to like compartmentalize and just act like these things, and I guess you can even call it programming. I mean, I guess I know that our biology is our biology and our race is our race, but the things that come along with it are all a direct, correlation of the programming that comes along with those roles. Because like you said, women are more this and women are more that. Yeah. And so even in that, it still just feels like very presumptuous that just because you're a woman that's how you're gonna move, or just because you're black that you're gonna move a certain way.
Yeah. Maybe he forgot he did that brand deal.
Well, but like I said, I think that people have the right to change their mind, because I've often felt. No, I know, but I'm just, even as me, as someone who is a public facing person and have made changes over the years, and I look back on things that I endorsed, or like I was endorsing liquor companies before I stopped drinking liquor, and I look and I'm like, ugh, but that's just where I was at the time. So I definitely have grace and understanding for that evolution of Pharrell. What is the conversation around his comments? Do you know? Like, are people thinking that it's wrong, or?
I think it's a little bit of both, but yeah, just basically saying that he was wrong in a sense to discourage people from endorsing a candidate, that kind of thing. But as social media is, it's always very mixed. But that's the overwhelming thing that came up in my algorithms was people responding negatively to it, that he shouldn't discourage people.
Yeah, I think politics, religion, like there's certain things that even your vaccination status, things that used to just be more personal decision have become so publicized, because now it's become this branding element to it that didn't exist before. You know what I'm saying? And it's a weird time.
So would you endorse a politician? Or I guess, how do you feel? Yeah, how do you feel about celebrities endorsing politicians?
I think the same way that I feel about a celebrity endorsing a vaccine. Like, I think that if you don't fully have an understanding of it, then you shouldn't be trying to use your influence to program the minds of people who look to you for wisdom. Like, if you haven't truly done a deep dive and you're just treating it like, oh, they're a woman, so yay, here we go. And it's just very like baseless information of why you're endorsing them, then that's when it becomes trouble. Because the narrative around the vaccine was like, oh, trust the science. But it's like, bro, but you're not actually a scientist. So you're just going along with the narrative. You're going along with the programming and you're presenting it like, I did this thing, so you should. But then as time went on, we realized that there was a lot of things that came out and the science really wasn't to be trusted because it didn't do what it said. And our president at the time, you know, President Biden was basically, and we'll get into this more. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but was basically like villainizing people who weren't endorsing it or were choosing not to do it. And then ultimately the things that he said that it would do, it didn't do. And so it's like y'all trusted something blindly and then you went out on a limb and used your platform to encourage people to do something that you didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
You know, if you are well researched in the candidate and their platforms and their history and, you know, what they intend to do, their policies, then I don't think there's anything wrong with, you know, saying who you support, because that's done on all levels. You see people putting signs in front of their house. I mean, that's not anything crazy to do. I just think that it's irresponsible when you endorse a candidate off of just their characteristics alone, like as far as, oh, they're nice or they're black or they're white or they're a woman or they're a man. Like, I just don't think that those things are enough of a reason to get behind someone. So if you have an educated reason why you're doing it, then yes.
Yeah, I think personality definitely kind of it moves the needle for most people. Like, you know, definitely with Barack Obama, I think that's why everybody liked him was
his
that
charm.
You know, the give that he had and, you know, his ability to the way he spoke, and that he just seemed like a human being versus a lot of our, you know, other candidates. But again, that's not enough. Even, you know, in the Billie Eilish tweet or whatever she put out, you know, it was clear that there were very, I guess, the standard cliches of why you should vote Democratic for what this election is, of why she was voting for her, and talking about, you know, the reproductive rights and she said something about, like, you know, the middle class. Can you check that for me? There was a couple things that I wanted to talk about on that.
Today is National Voter Registration Day, and we are asking you to please join us in going to iwillvote.com to check your status and vote early like we do.
We are voting for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz because they are fighting to protect our reproductive freedom, our planet, and our democracy.
We can't let extremists control our lives, our freedoms, and our future. The only way to stop them and the dangerous Project 2025 agenda is to vote and elect Kamala Harris.
Vote like your life depends on it, because it does.
Go to iwillvote.com and make a plan to vote early.
Love you guys.
So reproductive health, the planet, and our democracy.
Our freedoms.
Got you.
Yeah, and democracy, yeah. So yeah, it's just
That's very general.
Very general things outside of the reproductive rights. Like to say our planet, like the other side is not trying to protect the planet, and I'm assuming they're talking about the clean energy and you know, climate change, global warming thing that's happened, which has a lot of science is not being put in the forefront of the media of what that really is, and you know, just in our planet and how it is naturally warming up for other reasons that they're not talking about. This is to push an industry No different than when they push gasoline and petroleum and all the other things. So yeah, it's just very general to speak on those things as reasons to vote for someone. And like you said, we just got to get deeper in the way that we are talking about our policy and the things that move the needle for us to say that I'm going to vote for this person.
And not only going deeper, but actually coming together and figuring out what it is that we actually want as a collective, and then using our influence to influence government.
Yep.
Not using our influence to influence the people with what it already is.
Right.
Like the narrative is always like, oh, this is what it is. This is who we got. He said, this is the only way. It's like, but is it the only way? Because y'all influential as hell. Imagine if you use your voices to try and change how the government works. The government works for us.
Because the funny part is like if this is the only way, we're in that way right now. Because Biden and Harris are
the current
administration right now. So yeah, this is not the only way. Like we've had this way for 4 years is my point. So yeah, it just seems like we're just on this loop of, push and pull from both sides as, that we always are just going to end up somewhere in the middle where there aren't major changes ever made from either side. So
yeah, because they never have to. It just is what it is. We always just kind of, this is all we got. This is all we got to do. So I think it's just a misuse of influence to just continue to go along with the program. I just, can't get with it.
Yeah, and there's always a barrage of a bunch of different people who come out and say that they are endorsing. So I know Kamala had Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, Anthony Anderson, Spike Lee, Quavo, Meg Thee Stallion, and I think Trump had
DaBaby.
Yeah, DaBaby, Mike Tyson, Jake Paul,
Kanye.
Yeah, MIA, and who am I missing? There was somebody else that was kind of funny.
Oh,
Kodak Black.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and Candace Owens, of course. But yeah, it's...
Oh, yeah, Amber Rose.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's also interesting... Well, this isn't the political episode, so we ain't even got to get into all that. But I'll just leave it at, it's interesting.
It is.
It's all so interesting.
So yeah, the programming goes deep. And, some of the programming that I do actually like is from Kendrick, because programming goes both ways. You can program yourself, towards something that is more lower vibrational or something that's higher vibrational. And I always appreciate Kendrick for pushing the limits of making people think about becoming their better selves. And then he just had his new song, Watch the Party Die, which was super interesting, which I would love to play real quick. And we won't play this on air, but yeah. To me, this definitely shows that he understands the programming of this world. I think the party represents the program. And you can also look at it as, the political parties as well as something that, just me as a creator, that's kind of how I thought of it as well. But the party represents those who understand that they are doing the programming and they are all together in this. A lot of these Hollywood parties, they're invite only certain people get into the rooms. There ain't no cell phones allowed, and all these things. And yeah, I just, some of the lyrics that he said. So I think it's time to watch the party die. This shit done got too wicked to apologize. It's different. Get him whacked and disqualified. We even kill the killers because they like taking innocent lives. Burn the whole village. We start over. It's really that time. Why reason with these niggas if they can't see the future first? Why argue with these clowns if the circus is well at work? Just walk that man down, that'll do everyone a solid. It's love, but tough love sometimes gotta result in violence. If you parade in gluttony without giving truth to the youth, the graveyard is company. Just tell us what casket to choose. So, man, first of all, it's definitely wicked out here. It is definitely wicked out here, and just I love that Kendrick is such a poet in the way that he goes about saying these things, because the village has to burn down, and we're seeing that happen. I think the Kendrick Drake beef was really
and if you're listening, he did air quotes.
Yeah, and you're that was like the culmination of like literally your charged life and your drained life, and going into your higher self or your lower self, and those two worlds coming and fighting each other. We talk about going into the age of Aquarius, and I think Kendrick represents that side of it, and Drake represents the old, just going with the program, side of things. And when he said, we have to, burn the whole village down, we start over, it's really that time. I really think that's what he's talking about. When he also said, why argue with these clowns if the circus is well at work? Basically saying that we can't change people who already have their mind made up that this is what they're gonna do. Yeah. So we have to build our own. We have to burn that shit down, and we have to come into our own as the few enlightened ones, or the observers, as we talked about a few episodes ago as well. I love what he's doing. He shouted out D1, who's been calling out a lot of this stuff as well. It's time for more people to start speaking up like this, and it's very rare to see one at his level talk about the powers that be in this way. And then, obviously with him, doing the Super Bowl is going to have that platform on the highest stage that there is. So shout out to Kendrick for Watch the Party Die. Love what he continues to do and pushing the envelope.
Minus him calling women bitches. I really wish we could just retire that.
Yeah,
facts, I respect what he's saying, but it's like, come on, man. We gotta stop calling women bitches.
Facts.
But that aside, I understand the dilemma, and even the fact, like when you speak about the Kendrick and Drake beef, I thought about at the end of the day, if they were playing a game of football, right? The stadium that they're playing on is still universal. You know what I mean? Like they're playing for the same master, and I can only imagine. I mean, I see.
And you mean Universal Music Group?
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Universal Music Group, because Drake and Kendrick are both signed to the same label, which is an interesting thing, because at the end of the day, their beef, although, like you said, it represents charged life, drained life, is still monetized by the very powers that he's saying need to be burned down, like the systems that need to be burned down. So I can only imagine that conflict as someone who is technically a part of the circus, but is starting to recognize the clowns, and it's like, oh, wait, I'm going to take these things off, but I'm still in this circus. Like, I can't even imagine that feeling of,
yes,
you
can,
mean?
because you are awakened and enlightened and on your healing journey, and you still understand what it's like to live in this world that is full of programming, and have people from your past and family, friends that are still in that, and just like politics, they are two sides of the same coin, because they are both a part of the circus of being, signed to Universal, but having two different perspectives. I think Drake is way more than he puts on. I think he very much understands the damage that he's doing, and in a sense, that's part of the programming as well. Is that I want this success and all these things that come with it, and to be able to own my masters. So I'm going to sell out, in a sense, to take people, to lead people down a path that I'm not living, because he's definitely one of those. Like he's probably the number one example that I see as someone who doesn't live the life that they talk about. I do not believe Drake for a second about a lot of the things that he talks about, like from coming from Degrassi and seeing him host the ESPYs and all of this stuff, man. So. But it's necessary. It's definitely giving Republican Democrat.
Oh, you just mean as far as this binary, like these
Yeah.
two choices? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But and the Republican Democrats, they're definitely two sides of the same coin as well. At the end of the day, they're all serving the same masters,
Right.
which are the companies that fund them, because they fund both sides.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Well, I wish you well, Kendrick.
Yep.
Because like I said, I know I said I can't imagine, and I know that there's ways I can relate, but being in it that deep, I can't imagine that. You know, that the conscious, because he didn't release it on a major platform, right? Like on any DSP, he just put it up on social media with some black Air Force One picture, right? So like,
I haven't checked DSPs actually, but
I don't think
that's the only place
not
I
on
saw
there.
it.
So he knew he had to do it in a way. You know, he know what's up.
Yeah.
That's why I just want to send so much light and love to my Gemini brother, because that's a lot to navigate.
Yeah, because it's clear that he lays low. He
For a
definitely lays
reason.
low, yeah.
He know what it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's tough. Cup kunka.
Yeah. I just hope that he's cutting through for all the right reasons. I really do. And if his art is a representation of who he truly is, and I would say that he is, but it's just a dirty game, man. We done seen it all, and we done heard it all about this industry. So love and light to Kendrick for all he continues to do.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's get into the main part of this conversation, and
Let's
just
do it.
talking about our experience with programming, how to deprogram from the matrix, and a lot of these thoughts that are just kind of put onto us as children that we never question until someone says something that wakes us up, and a lot, or at least gives us the thought that we should wake up. But a lot of us still continue on that path because of the cognitive dissonance that comes along with hearing new information. And your brain is very efficient in not wanting to change its programming and learn new things. It wants to save energy, by rejecting any new ideas that go against what it was already told.
Because it would require too much work to do the reprogramming.
Exactly.
Like a computer.
Exactly, which is why it's called programming.
Come on, boom.
So, what are the things that program us? I know we had a
it's many things. Like we talked about earlier, it's the media, it's the music, it's the television. That's why they call them TV programs and programming on radio stations. Like these words is hiding in plain sight. Like all of these things, even things like, we first read the 4 Agreements, and they were talking about like the dream that we're all born into, like these things that are predetermined that we just kind of accept and agree upon when we first come into this world. And like you said, that is such a influential time, your childhood, your brain being so fluid. That's why you can learn languages so quickly, or you pick up on all these things so quickly. That's like the most important time, that developmental time. And so we learn so much of this world and what it is that we're supposed to accept without questioning it. And it gets, like you said, it gets harder to undo those things as we get older, because it's a difficult transition trying to like think of anything new. And I find that when we do start to go outside of these agreements that we've made from birth, and that more questions come, because when you're young, you don't really get that opportunity to say, well, what do you mean? And then when you do, you get in trouble for it, whether it's religion or whether it's, anything, when you start to question
public
it, or
school.
Exactly. Or I will never forget being in public school and asking questions about certain things and getting in trouble for it, or in Sunday school asking certain things and getting in trouble for it.
Or not even just in trouble, but just like you're coming into the awareness that if I think differently, I'm going to be outcasted. I may be laughed at. I may be talked about.
A troublemaker.
I may be picked on, bullied, just from not going with the program.
Yeah.
And then it makes people conform to be around that to see the programming working on a mass scale. You know, typically you're in your home where it's just a few different opinions are around you, or you're just around a few people at a time. But then to go and see hundreds of kids talking the same way and dressing the same way and
listening to the same music.
Right. And it's just, it is a culture shock to us in our young minds to be 5 and 6 years old going into this and starting to now have these thoughts that then turn into anxieties and turn into overthinking about how we present ourselves, not because we want to, but literally just to fit in and not feel outcasted, because we know that human beings are, we want to be a part of, we're tribal people. We want to be a part of the community, and that goes whether it's good or bad, that we emulate the things that we're around.
Yeah, and that goes back to what you said though. Like it's harder to do the things that step outside of the norm. And the same thing when you're actually presenting yourself or doing something that is outside the norm, you have to take everything that comes along with it. Like especially in public school, like if you're dressing differently or you're listening to music differently, you got to deal with everything that comes along with going outside of the norm. And so that also aids in the programming. Like once you program the masses, then we do the work for the powers that be.
And that's the whole point of programming, is so they don't have to enslave us anymore. Like, slavery just looks different now. Like we will enslave ourselves, and that we would do the work for them, and we are now the workers out in the fields, making these people do the work of our masters. And so, and then programming also comes in the movies and the programming that we watch, cartoons, Friends.
Yeah, and I remember
Santa Claus, holidays,
Santa Claus,
the Tooth Fairy.
Look, all of it. And I remember you telling me before, like when we were getting on our health journey and just understanding more about vegetables and GMO and all that. And you were telling me like how in the cartoons, like a lot of the vegetables and stuff that they had were like GMO vegetables or something.
Yeah, or ones that they had hybridized, that they could make a patent off it, because once you mess with the genes and you turn it into a new crop, essentially, then you can patent it. So carrots with Bugs Bunny, spinach with Popeye, the big tomatoes, not cherry tomatoes or plum tomatoes, but the big tomatoes that they would throw at
Muppet
people
Babies.
On a bunch of cartoons, like for bad comedians on stage and stuff like that. Corn was another big one. So all of that stuff is to push things. Lead was one of the worst things that ended up coming out, how bad it was, but they were pushing that in cartoons and advertisements.
What? Well, I know in advertisements for sure. It was in the toys until I don't know what year it was, but now like when you go get a home that's older, there's a
lead warning.
Yeah, it's wild. They ain't for us.
And then to go back to school, the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner, saying that and hearing that every single day, and we never knew the lyrics to the rest of it, that we now as Black people are like, maybe we shouldn't be endorsing this endorsing this song where it talks about the hireling and the slave line in it, in like the third verse or something that nobody ever gets to. But yeah, man, the programming goes deep, and it starts early, and most of the time it never leaves us. If we don't start to deprogram ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been all types of programming that we've witnessed in our life. I'm curious, what types of programming have you been a victim to?
A lot of it. I would say one of the most impactful programming that I've experienced is like Disney movies and romantic comedies. As a young girl, I was definitely the target market for that. And
what?
Who knew? But it's like just painting this picture of romance, and especially Disney movies, like women having to be like the sacrificial beings in the dynamic of a relationship in order to have it, like the Little Mermaid giving up her fins, for Eric, so weak ass, and you know, Aladdin and Jasmine, like this dude, a whole thief out here barefoot with a monkey, like, and she's the princess, and like he lied to her multiple times, and it's like, but it's okay, like he has a carpet that moves, and it's just wild, like that is the programming, and it definitely affected the way that I showed up in my relationships because I felt like I gave way too much grace, and I thought that love and romance and being handsome and all these things was just so much more important than your character, because the character of these dudes was crazy in these Disney movies.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, with romance or romantic, you know, comes from Roman antics. The antics of Rome, the you know, the empire that fell, that fed us a lot of this programming, actually, you know, with the Bible and Roman Catholic Church and so forth and so on.
I never knew that.
Yeah, so you know, it's which is why I think, you know, a lot of people can't live up to those standards because it was meant to sell. It was meant to sell things.
Got you. Now that's wild.
The programming runs deep, and
The
it all comes back to
programming.
money. So
It always goes back to money.
Yep.
But yeah, in conclusion, I would say that romantic comedies in Disney definitely affected the way that I showed up in relationships and gave me a weird expectation of what love was supposed to look like, you know. How about you?
programming that I fell victim to, I would say that that it was okay to talk to you know, a bunch of different women, or not even a way of like having, you know, multiple relationships, but that somehow gave worth to who I was as a man, is, you know, being liked or being chosen as someone that women liked.
And how did that show up for you in your life?
Just in that, just, you know, being more of a driving factor than it should. And I was better than a lot of guys in my circle, like by comparison, but that's still, you know, you comparing yourself to the worst of things ain't
saying much.
Right. So yeah, just that kind of thing. And you know, yeah, that my value wasn't placed in what I thought about myself early on, and was more, you know, focused on what I could get, you know, out of getting this pseudo validation, you know, from women early on in my life.
What programming gave you that narrative?
Man, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, a different world.
Yeah, man. I mean, so many things. Cartoons, even the skunk on the Looney Tunes.
Pepe Le Pew.
And yeah, just like, you know, music. I mean, yeah, everything, man. It was that's all it was. And you know, like I said, better than a lot of people, but still not what I needed to be for me to be my best self. I was very focused as a kid, but I can only imagine if I did not have that as, you know, a driving force in my life early on, where I would be now.
Well, you're better now.
I am. I'm much better now.
You's married now.
Yep, we healing now.
Yeah. Period. No, that's the thing. I was gonna say something. There was something that you said.
Oh, and I thought I could be a ninja too, because I watched a lot of Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles and Beetleborgs and all that stuff.
What you mean you thought you could be a
Man,
ninja?
I had nunchucks. I had sais. I was always trying to do martial arts and stuff. Never took a class, but like, yeah, I was about that life.
Could you get up from laying down? Like,
yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I'm talking about, like the ninja way?
I wasn't really good at it, but I could get up enough where I could do it. Yeah.
Can you do it now?
I probably could. Yeah, I need some carpet, but yeah, I probably could.
You can be laying down.
I'm gonna try it tonight.
So the program is still working for you, basically, is what you're saying. Because you still believe that you could do
it. It wasn't
this.
a belief. I did it. I literally have a video of me doing it. I'm gonna find it. I have from my first cell phone, I have a video of like me and my singing group. We all tried to do it, and I did it.
So then you weren't delusional. You were a ninja.
Now, that didn't make me a ninja. I wouldn't study it if I fought an actual person who was trained
in the ninja way?
in ninjutsu, I would be done.
Okay. Well, at least you know your limits.
I do. I'm good on that. I stuck to slap boxing and regular fights. We just punching and blocking. That's it.
Like Parappa the Rapper.
Nah, he did kick,
punch,
chop.
All chop and block.
So
That's
he had
right.
a little more than me. I didn't do any chopping, and I did do kicking only with my cousins. When
You kicked people?
No, not in real fights, but like when we were like imitating the Ninja Turtles. Hell yeah,
Dang, see,
that was the
programming,
thing.
that's
Like
crazy.
the roundhouse kick, like that was the thing.
Oh, like where it's like you go around in a circle on one leg.
No. Like when you
Kalia's currently doing
you
it
spin
right now.
around and you kick. Yeah.
Like a pulsing.
No.
Oh, like you hit them in
spin
one
around.
swoop.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like the leg
Oh,
goes up.
so
Yep.
Kalia's a ninja also.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
learning so much about you both.
Ninja.
And ninja, is that the feminine form of ninja?
Sounds about right.
All right, ninja.
So I'm curious, what programming have you watched play out, in like from the beginning, or from its inception in your lifetime?
Let me think. I would say the divide between men and women. I think that it's something that happened before me, but I'm seeing it happen so much faster in our generation, like with music and just, the degrading of women. And so when you're hearing this so much and you're seeing it on movies, it desensitizes men from the way that they look at women, which is why I was saying what I said about Kendrick with bitches. Like, I understand, and Kalia informed me and gave me some backstory about the fact that he said he'll call a woman, a bitch, or whatever, like just basically calling it like it is. And I get that if you got the backstory, but if you ain't read the backstory and that's all you hear, it can still have negative implications on people who are only taking it for that particular context and thinking, oh, if someone as enlightened as Kendrick is saying it, then I can say it too. And so then it continues to carry out this, narrative around women being less than like a female or a bitch or a hoe, like if that's all that you're hearing in music. In the 90s was crazy about that stuff. Like it was wild. Even listening back to it now, like some of the things that they were saying about women and just disposing of them after they got what they wanted from them. And then now with women, basically saying that they don't need a man, which, mind you, I'm not saying anybody needs anything, but there is beauty in partnership, as we've come to find out. And I think that that's the very thing that they understand. And by they, I mean whoever is controlling this shit understands the power of partnership, understands the power of community. And so if you got black on black crime and you've got black men hating other black men, then we can never come together. And if you got black women, not needing black men, and black men feeling like, a woman is beneath their, care, or not worthy of their love or compassion or care or, respect, then you're destroying the whole framework of how we can come together in community to like rebuild and reprogram the systems and grow and learn and love. And so, to answer your question, that's definitely what I've seen play out very rapidly in our time with music and television, for sure.
Yeah, the black family is definitely, it's the first business. It is supposed to be the beginning of your healing journey and really learning who you are. And like you said, they understood the power of tearing us apart and us being able to build generational wealth and all these other things. So again, another way that they are enslaving us, without putting us in chains. And chains look different these days, and that's definitely one of their tools.
Sure. How about you, though? What's something that you've watched play out in real time?
I got two. 9/11, September 11th, attacks with these 4 airplanes, supposed airplanes that the other two, one ended up landing in Cleveland, Ohio, actually, and then there was one that supposedly hit the Pentagon, which no one has seen a video of ever. All the tapes were confiscated, and then there was another one in that supposedly crashed in Pennsylvania, but no one has ever seen a piece of a plane ever. Like you can scour the internet and you won't find it with those two. The only two we've ever saw of those 4 planes that were involved in that were the Twin Towers, which, and then they said the reason why they went after, they started this war is because they said that they knew that the pilots of these crafts, they identified them because their passports were in the rubble of the buildings that fell down. So these buildings, which were like of the highest standard of building materials, and they had to make them to withstand a certain temperatures and everything, so they wouldn't fall. It's literally 3 separate buildings that were stacked on top of each other to make each tower. So in the event of something like this happen, if it did collapse, it would stop once it got to that next level of these 3 buildings that were, these 3 segments of the building. And the whole thing, they just came crumbling down, and they had us believe that these buildings burning for a couple of hours, stories and stories up in the air made the entire building come down in free fall speed.
Like it was demolished.
Yeah, in my opinion, it was demolished. There's no way these buildings can come down like that. And I had questions, and going back to what we were talking about with public school, I remember me and this guy named Vernon, we had questions about the validity.
Vernon's like, don't put me in this.
I ain't saying his last name.
Go ahead.
But yeah, we were questioning I can't remember exactly what it was, but we were basically questioning the validity of whatever this stuff was. And I remember our teacher like having an issue with us like asking these questions and bringing up good points. I've always been a little bit of a rebel and thinking a little left of center.
Yeah.
And I'm
what were some of the questions you had?
I knew that it was weird that I didn't see a plane hit the Pentagon. Like this is literally the base of all military operations, and you don't have one video of it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was weird. And then, years later, there's been plenty of documentaries and stuff that come out that have proven that, tapes were confiscated. People were offered, money and to say certain narratives around, what they saw that day. And yeah, it's just really odd. And I don't think it's by accident that they say never forget when it comes to that. It took us into 20 years of war, where I think we lost maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people that day, and then we went and killed tens of thousands of people, including thousands and thousands of civilians in the Middle East. So. Yeah, that was one of the big ones for me. That was literally my turning point and shifting my mindset on questioning things and starting to think for myself. I remember seeing a documentary in college and showing a lot of my friends, this documentary or whatever. So yeah, that definitely shifted my perspective for sure. And then the other one is COVID, and all the misinformation around that and scaring people into getting a vaccine from what was basically a brand deal between the government and Pfizer. And I mentioned this earlier with Pfizer and the Pfizer CEO being on the president's press conference and all this stuff, and how it was supposed to have 99% efficacy and being able to stop the spread of it if you got the vaccine, and how all of that's come out to be a lie. And I 100% believe that they knew that, and what their reasons were, we can all speculate. But the the bigger part of it is that they scared people into doing things, and it's very ironic that that the Democratic Party is pushing for free choice when it comes to a woman's body, which I can 100% respect, but didn't give us the ability to have free choice over our bodies when it came to putting a foreign substance in it, inside of us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And fear, like you said, is definitely the common denominator in all of those things. Like that's the programming.
Yes.
Like and so it's like whether or not you believe that these things happen or they were valid. Like I know a lot of times they play up on the emotions. Like, well, I lost people in this and I lost people in that. No one's denying that these events actually happened. What's being called out is the intention behind it. Now, whether or not you reactively or proactively took advantage of the fear that it created, it was heightened through the media. It 100%. Was heightened through a big red number on the news and you seeing it and it making you feel this anxiety around something that ultimately, like you said, is sort of a brand deal. And even with 9/11.
And by the big red numbers, you mean the amount of deaths?
Yes, I'm sorry. The big red numbers of seeing the amount of people, like this death count. But we don't do that for anything else. You know, like if it's someone who, like the
cancer, opioids, all the other things.
Diet-related things, you know, like, no, you're not showcasing that. You're showcasing this for a very specific reason.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, like, because even with 9/11, like, the fear in that was we need to be protected. So now you have these 9/11 taxes with the airport and they implemented TSA. Like, for all you youngins out there, that shit did not exist when we were kids. Like, we did not have this extent, take off your shoes and do all this. And even with the shootings that are going on in schools, like these schools, it's like, now you're creating so much fear. You're taking advantage of situations that genuinely might be happening, but you're capitalizing on it by creating enough fear for people welcoming an invasion of their personal space, whether or not I'm putting a foreign substance in my body or I'm saying we want more police, we need more
police presence at schools.
Police presence at schools, or yes, please pat me down, whatever it takes for this thing to not happen. And we're slowly giving away our rights out of fear. So yes, that is the programming that is happening, whether or not you believe these things were, intentional or reactive.
Fear is the basis of pretty much all of this stuff. You know, going back to what we were saying about not wanting to be talked about in school, not getting presents from Santa Claus if you're bad,
not wanting to go to hell.
all of the programming goes back to fear. And once you learn who you are and you learn that you are more powerful than they say, that fear starts to move, and then you can see things in a much clearer perspective.
Yeah, I mean, not to keep going back to this, but they do it with politics too. They're like, if you don't do this, this is the only way.
Then Trump's gonna be a dictator.
And not to say that, again, like we're endorsing anybody, but it's just when you look at things from an aerial perspective and just kind of watching it all play out, I'm not looking at the faces and the nuances of these people. I'm just looking at these two entities that are being used to manipulate the people. And yeah, it's like,
Kamala's gonna let what is it?
The borders?
Yeah. Well, with the borders and just talk about how she let off criminals when she was in California, and then the other side is saying that she locked too many people up, and it's. Everything is fear-based.
It's all fear-based. So
yeah, all the ads. I'm sure y'all have seen dozens and dozens of ads at this point if you're watching YouTube.
Which is so interesting with the programming, right? Because like when you talk about the ads or like even like we said, the death toll numbers that happened, when we look at pharmaceutical companies and how when they're saying may cause death, may make your arms fall off. Like niggas is riding bikes and playing tennis and stuff because of the programming of it. Like you can create a narrative however you want to shape it in the minds of people. So this is the psychology of it all, right? Like just deciding how we want to package this thing to make it seem like it's okay, or if it's a danger, you can just change it just with the music. And you know that, like film scoring, we've talked about this before, but yeah, there's so much power in the psychology. As long as they're
smiling, the body doesn't know there's something bad going on if you're smiling.
Child, because that's scarier to me than anything. The side effects of these drugs, What are we even
Facts,
talking
yo.
about? That's scary as hell.
The side effects are longer than the benefits on every commercial.
The lady's voice is kind of scary. Yeah. But another thing that I will say I had fallen victim to in programming is just the pressure of capitalism with holidays. And even now, like that I'm out of that programming, like seeing how it affects people that I love, how we will, and I'm sure it's heightened even more with social media, right? And like this is the perfect time for Amazon to be a thing. It's like because you constantly feel like you need something. You got to have more. You got to have this banana holder in your kitchen. Like what the hell? Like we're just getting all of these stupid ass things because we see this aesthetic that's being, you know, carried out through the programming of social media and brand deals. And like, you know, holiday comes around and Christmas comes around. It's like, oh, I got to go and get into debt and get cards and stress myself out and I'm depressed. And it just affects your whole being trying to live up to something that was man-made. Like it's never that serious. Like we've gotten so far away from just love, community, doing things for people because we want to. It's like we have to be programmed and told when these moments can actually happen. Like getting together with family. It's like, yeah, all of it. And it's unfortunate that we pressure and stress ourselves out and we haven't really looked at the situation to really understand why we're doing this stuff. Like we'll literally max out their cars and Black Friday and jumping over each other just so you can get things for people because this day has been deemed the day to give gifts and this is what we do. Like
They do more than jump over each other. They be fighting, yo. It's crazy.
people be dying. No, I'm dead ass serious. Like people get crazy. It's like, and for what?
It's nuts, yo.
Yeah, like that's I really, really would love to see our society get to a space because we're stressing ourselves out. We're causing the depression. I know like even in that time between Thanksgiving and New Year is like the most suicide rates ever. Like they spike because people feel like the loneliness or the, you know, the inadequacy of not being able to provide this experience for their family. And it's just like, man.
Imagine how much money we would have if we saved all of the Christmases, if we saved all the money we spent on Christmases for things that we literally never use.
And then grow out of like all of these, but no, I really don't get it. Like I understand why the programming is effective, but I really don't get why we give 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and like all of these things. And it's just things that in 5 years are not even gonna.
2 months.
Yeah, you were about to say something. No, I don't want you to lose
Yeah,
it.
because we were watching the old home video of my family on Christmas, and I had all of these toys, and it was so funny because the only thing I was paying attention to was my drum set.
Yeah,
I had a pool
staring at
table. I had stuff everywhere, yo, and that's all I cared about. And like, you know, yeah, I just don't think that's the time to be like getting all these things for babies, like,
yeah, or really
anybody, yeah.
Especially like, yeah, we celebrate the oddest things, and it would be a beautiful tradition if we started to celebrate and to pour into people in ways that actually take them closer to their charge. So, and even in the traditions of these holidays of like, I gotta eat, you know, turkeys and hams and mashed potatoes and macaroni and cheese and all of these things that come along with the holidays as well. Like, and then people wait until the new year to try to get themselves right together. Like the programming of that, of like having to, your diet starts on Monday
it's not time like that for no reason.
New year, new me. Like, yeah, it's like exactly. It is time like that. It's like literally from Halloween where you're eating all the candy in the world to Thanksgiving where y'all eating these damn turkeys and stuff, and Christmas y'all going in, and then it's like, oh, new year, new me. I'm going to try it, and just for this little bit of time, and then I'm going to stop because, oh, well, my birthday's coming up, Valentine's Day is coming up, so I got to do this and I got to do that. And we continually make excuses based on these programs, these holidays that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Not to say that, you know, I don't want you to like spoil me sometimes, but I'm just saying it
don't have
doesn't
to be on a holiday.
to be because of these holidays or because everybody says that this is what we're supposed to do on it, because it almost takes away the genuine nature
It
of
does.
just doing for someone because
Big
you
facts.
want to. And that's what I had to tell some of my family. It's like, it's not that I'm like, no, I don't celebrate certain holidays, you know, but I'm going to do for you when you need me. I may not be at the barbecues all the time because I don't eat that stuff, or a lot of the ways that people fellowship are in toxic ways of like, we just going to drink together and we going to do this and we going to eat all this fried chicken or whatever. And, you know, I want to be able to show up for you in ways that really matter. So when you need me, like if you trying to figure out, oh, I want to do a detox, you know, you're going to call Devin about that. Or, you know, I think I want to homeschool my child. You know, you're going to come to us about those things. And so, or how did you get your son to be plant-based? You know, I want to be able to add value to my community and to my family, and not just by giving them a pair of like leopard slippers for Christmas that is not serving anything to advance them into their charged life.
Yeah, so you know, I would encourage people to really take a look at those things and why you're doing them, and shoot, save some of that money, cut back this year, and pool your resources together. And instead of everybody in your family spending money on the things that, you know, we typically do, start a business together, buy some land together, do something else. Like literally, if 5 people to come together and y'all all spending multiple thousands of dollars to buy presents, like that's a down payment on something right there, yo. And we just got to change our mindsets instead of trying to fit in with a society that is not meant to serve us, man.
No, because everything always boils down to the money. Just like you said, all of the programming, it just boils down to the money. And if we took our resources and put it towards something that is actually empowering us, then we wouldn't need to worry about the policies of any candidates, or we wouldn't need to worry about any of these things that they can manipulate us through, because we're starting to create our own.
Facts.
So Let There Be Art is obviously our company and the name of our podcast. And I love the fact that that's what we've called it, because we understand that art influences society, but society is also a reflection of art, and they mirror each other. And so we always say that because of that fact, that both of them should be held accountable. Both of them need to be evaluated in their influence of one another. And we were watching Supercell the other day. You know, no shade, we haven't finished watching it yet, but I don't know much about the culture over there in London, right? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But I know that hip hop started in America, for sure, in New York. And to hear like some of the songs that were being played during the moments, like, and honestly, I'm just tired of seeing so much violence. And not that that was the premise of it at all. I think there's a cool message in the show. But I think that as I've gotten more into my healing, I'm more sensitive to certain imagery that I wasn't before, because I have removed myself from it so much that when I see it, it's like, oh God, like seeing the boys stabbing each other and stuff, it is too much for me sometimes. But the music that was being played, you know, there were these like hip hop artists, and they were like, you know, I'm gonna kill this dude, I'm gonna kill this. Yeah, exactly. But in London. And then it made me ask Devin this question, like, okay, so obviously hip hop started in America, and is this the influence of American culture or American music on the rest of the world, or was this existing like this all the time? And I don't know. I'm not even claiming to know. That's why I'm saying that I'm ignorant about this, and I'm really genuinely curious about how that narrative of violence and gangs and all of that, where it even came from across the pond.
Well, in terms of the music, drill music has been really popular. It's hard to really figure out the inception, but you know, New York, Chicago, London are big in the like drill music scene. So musically, but the imagery of the gangs is definitely an Americanized thing. You know, you had the blue bandanas and the red bandanas, so you know, Bloods and Crips, which, you know, the history of that is programming as well, of, you know, Bloods and Crips, and a lot of these gangs or street gangs as we know today started out as community organizations that were doing work in their communities for the kids, having after school programs, feeding their communities, helping to police their communities against you know, violence and crime and you know, crooked cops.
Yeah.
And then because of the programming, of them becoming, wanted or or being labeled as criminals for the work that they were doing to discredit them in the media, have since they go to jail, they can't get a job, they come back out, so they're going to do what they have, and over decades have slowly become into what we know gangs are today, which is just like baseless violence based on territory.
And a false sense of hierarchy, which you said to me before.
Exactly. That's all it is. It's I can't have power anywhere else. I don't have a voice. I can't move up in the job ranks. I can't own my own business because of, I can't get a loan from the bank like a white person down the street can. So I'm going to build hierarchy and get my power in the only way that I can, and that's in my neighborhood. And then, ultimately, because they have pushed that so much in media, I think the art is influencing life now more than life is influencing the art. Yes, there were people that did crimes for forever, and we've had, that in impoverished communities for forever. But now I think more children are aspiring to be in gangs or be hard or have guns because that's what they've seen their entire childhood, and nobody has been there to, say that like that's not how we live. You shouldn't be listening to that. This is what we should be doing. And so the streets are raising our young kings, man, and it's really unfortunate to see. But I definitely think it's more so the influence of the art than it is their personal experience, because you even see it in neighborhoods where like that none of that's happening. It's like people are they just want to be a caricature of what they think it is to be cool because they see this on TV all day, on social media all day long.
Yeah. And you have to, that's a good point. And then even like the fact that we didn't have any control, right? You're saying like this is all that we were able to control was our community, so it gave us a sense of purpose and X, Y, and Z. But like, if you think about it, if you think about the voices that have been amplified, or if you think about the drugs that were put in our communities or the guns that were put in our communities, we didn't have access to those things.
Facts, yo.
So they're taking advantage of their power and giving some of it to pawns within those communities to carry out the bigger programming that goes across, like you said, that is raising our young kings and also our young queens with the messaging. Because at the end of the day, the labels can accept or deny whatever it is that they want to amplify. So we're just, and by we, I mean people in the industry are just carrying out the narratives that they're choosing to amplify because it serves whatever programming they want to happen for our communities.
Yep, and that's filling up the jails. And one of the biggest form of programming is that I didn't necessarily fall victim to, but I saw a lot of people around me fall victim to. Like I unfortunately saw at least 5 or 6 people in my childhood that I knew personally who died to gun violence or, just gang affiliation stuff, or know someone who's paralyzed because of that, to this day. But yeah, the Nuck If You Buck, that was one of the first times that I saw the programming in front of my eyes, and I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on when, going to, a party, or I think I was at this place called Hollywood Connections. It's like, they have bumper cars and putt was it mini golf and a skating rink and all this stuff, and they would have parties there for teenagers. And when that song come on, 100% you knew that a fight was gonna break out.
I've seen it too.
And it's like, yo, like just because this song came on, program them enough to put them in a sense, or put them in the mindset that they wanted to fight someone or to find someone that they had something against to have a problem with. And I've seen people get jumped on to that song. I've seen all out brawls. I've seen just, one-on-one fights literally multiple times to that song. And it made me hate going out in my city. And I stayed to myself through most of my middle school and high school years until I kind of found my tribe. And like, that's why to this day, like, I prefer people to come to my house. Like, I prefer for people to come into my environment, because that's all I saw. Like every party, every get together, when it was people outside of my circle, that's how it was every single time.
Yeah, man, I've seen that song specifically, like in the clubs, like people breaking out in fights and doing that dance move, and be ready to fight. It's wild. But it's no surprise. Like, and it's not even, again, I'm not even faulting. It's not fully
Life imitating art
Yes,
again.
exactly. This is their experience. This is what, they speak to. And I know that's always been an argument too in hip hop, like, oh, well, this is where they are, so they should be able to speak about their life. But I think it goes back to even what I was saying with the Kendrick part. Like, if you don't have context, and if this is what's raising you and like what you're aspiring to be without understanding the full narrative, the same thing as clickbait. You're only taking a very small part of it and you're attributing it to your whole being. Like you mentioned, becoming a caricature of what this thing represents.
Facts.
How do you navigate that with honesty? I guess the only way to really do that is to have your own platform, because then you're able to present it however you want to. Because at the end of the day, like we said, the labels are the ones who are dictating what is getting this visibility. The media is doing that, and they can spin it and frame it however they want to shape culture.
Yeah, and even in film studios with the CIA, and literally getting involved in the writing and editing of scripts to fit a certain narrative. Because this goes way back. Programming is basically legal in most places,
Not
but
just
especially
basically, it's legal.
But especially in America, where we've had programs like COINTELPRO. We've had where they were infiltrating these activist groups to basically discredit them. MK Ultra, where they were doing studies with brainwashing and experimenting with different drugs to figure out how to change perception of people. So this goes back a long time, and we're just now seeing the effects of things that were done literally 70, 80 years ago, where this was a very clear shift in our world coming out of the Great Depression and going into the Civil Rights Movement, and how to break up people's ability to have free thought and to lead people into a higher state of awareness. And I can't remember what president or maybe it was somebody, a FBI director at the time, was just saying that one of the greatest threats to our country was Black unity. And just hearing that is just should be chilling to everybody, no matter what culture or race you are, that them understanding us coming together and having our own thought is something that is a
To be
threat.
dangerous, to be feared.
So yeah, it goes so deep. And Kalia, you spoke about this earlier. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it was media.
Mean World Syndrome.
Oh yeah, mean world syndrome would basically
Mean world syndrome.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so basically mean world syndrome is that if you are watching the news and you hear about these bad things that are happening, because a lot of times the news leans towards, again, fear and things that are negative going on, you think that is going to happen to you. And it's so true. I've seen it in my family. I've seen it with so many people that, that they hear something and then it automatically puts them in a fear state that something is going to happen to them. Although that threat could, be, one in a billion. So yeah, that from advertising to the government to media, this has been studied. This is a psychological attack on the mind for us to be able for us to basically change the way that we move in our life based on fear. And there's a science to it, and they do it to make money. They do it, to harness our all that energy to do whatever it is that they want to.
And it makes so much sense, now that you speak about it, like how I was saying, like it seems like it's happening so much faster now, that technology, and it makes sense that the CIA would want to infiltrate the TV programming and the film programming, because you can reach millions and millions of people in a second versus you had to like travel and go across boats, like be a missionary to spread certain like narratives or religion or whatever it is, or colonize. You know, now you can influence the entire population with one body of work, with one piece of art. And so of course they want to get in there and see like what y'all niggas talking about. I want to make sure, you know, y'all saying this thing, because even if the person who's creating the art doesn't even realize what's being done, because like you said, with COINTELPRO and all these different CIA branches that were specifically created to infiltrate Black organizations or shift the public perception of these organizations, like basically, I know like with Assata Shakur and so many other like Black leaders at that time, arresting them and then being able to put that arrest, even if they didn't do anything, the public perception of, oh, if this person's been arrested before, they're a threat to society. So they arrest them on baseless charges or things that have no relevance, that they didn't do. They'll get off, but the damage will already be done, because now you can create in the mind like, oh, you mean that lady who got arrested before? Oh, of course she's a troublemaker. So they understand like it's really, like you said, it's very chilling. And I really, really hope that people start to wake up, not just because of just wake up, y'all. I be getting overwhelmed about this because I'm such an empath, and my mind be working a million miles per second about this. But y'all, we really have to have more understanding about things and stop just accepting things for what they are. Because like we were saying earlier, we come into this world with all this programming that's already set up for us that we accept because it's happening and we don't know why. And then the moment there are new thoughts and ideas and concepts that are presented to us, we question the hell out of it. And we treat it like you have to explain yourself to me, this new thing that just, you know, is challenging these agreements that we didn't really research in the first place. It's like, do that same research for the things that you're currently doing, and understand that whoever has the most money is the person who is controlling the things that you see, and is controlling the things that we do, and is controlling the science you trust, and is controlling literally everything. So stop looking at things based on visibility, because that has always meant that that's just the person in power who's controlling it. Do that same research and diligence for the things that you're currently doing, and then make a decision based on what best suits you. Like, it's just got to be done. Stop questioning the differences. Stop asking vegans where they get their protein. And you ask yourself why you eat McDonald's and it's cool with it. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'll never forget, like, when we took our son to the doctor one time when he was younger, and he went vegan around the age of 8. We went plant-based, rather. And they're like, oh, you know, asking me all of these questions like, oh, well, you know, make sure you keep his weight, and is he doing this? And it's like 8 years that I have been bringing him here. You have never once asked me about the McDonald's that I had given him, maybe, or the chicken nuggets or anything. But now that I'm doing something that, you know, is going against the status quo, you have all of these questions for me. Like, let's just stop the madness and just ask the questions of everything, you know.
And Kalia, could you read also? I thought you we may have had a list, but could you read some of the films? You may have to go back to that article that the CIA has had involvement in the writing of like scripts and editing, and making sure that the CIA was looked at, or the government was looked at in a certain light.
Right. So Zero Dark 30 is one where they depicted the CIA's 10-year search for Osama bin Laden. And the CIA, they actually have it noted here. The CIA provided significant assistance to the film, which some say portrays the agency in a flattering light. Some other movies were Argo, Charlie Wilson's War, The Bourne Ultimatum, The Good Shepherd, Body of Lies. Oh, wow, this is a different list from before.
The Bourne Ultimatum, that's when I first started hearing about it, was the Bourne series. But keep going.
Salt, The Sum of All Fears. That was one I think you guys had.
Wait, did you say Saul?
Salt.
Oh, with
SALT.
Angelina Jolie.
Yep.
She was the Russian.
Yep.
Oh,
So
wow.
when you're wondering how these Russian and Middle Eastern people end up as the villains in a lot of these movies, and certain people talk with certain accents, it is all to have public perception to then equate those accents and the people that wear certain clothes and look at them in a certain way, typically a negative way when we're dealing with foreign people, and the only time you will see a lot of people who are deemed intelligent with British accents, with
even when they're narrating like National Geographic, is always a British man.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, man, the programming comes in so many different shapes and forms and sizes. So just really pay attention and just start looking with an objective eye
and
at
listening.
these things. Yes, and listening with an objective eye and ears. But I'm curious for those, or like, where do I start with this? Like, what has been ways that you have deprogrammed over the years? Like, how do we come out on the other side as free thinking human beings that have their own thoughts and perspectives in this world when so many people are telling us to go down this straight and narrow path?
I would say, what I was speaking on earlier is just being inquisitive about everything and not just the new information that you receive, like really doing a deeper dive on the things that you do, the things that you eat, the things that you watch, the things that you listen to, what you do to heal yourself, like the conditioning of, I got a headache, I'm going to get this Advil. Oh, I got a cramp, I'm going to get this Mytel. Oh, I'm doing this. Just really make a journal of like your week and the things that you grab and that gravitate to or eat, and just take one of those things and do a deeper dive. I find that following the money will like unlock all of the answers and like and really help you to stop moving with going with the program and start moving with more intention.
Yeah.
So that's really how I started doing things, was really just like questioning everything and following the money.
Yeah, and to piggyback on following the money, there was a lot of talk of, Kamala winning the debate against Trump on the ABC debate. And you got to look like who owns ABC.
Well, which is why
Disney.
Trump didn't want to do the debate.
So and look and go and see historically the Walt Disney Company, who they've donated the majority of their money to, in these past few elections. And did they give to Kamala? Yes, they did. And so your moderators are now being hand selected by producers who have a bias and an incentive for this person to win based on their campaign donations. And the same would go if there was a Fox News
Moderator.
debate. So yeah, this is it goes to both sides, but you got to start looking at this stuff and asking why, and look for the money. And every time, because they have to post this stuff, is ultimately of who they're donating to. But a lot of times, even with these corporations, they have PACs and things that they hide their names under. So yeah, just pay attention, because biases go both ways. And there was a reason why there was fact checking on one side, and there were certain questions directed towards Trump versus Kamala, and you'll see the same again. Like I said, if there was a Fox News debate,
or anything that backed Trump's campaign,
or that's a right wing or Republic leaning media outlet.
Which is to say that it's not about one candidate being better over the other. What it is like understanding how these biases can affect public perception and create a lopsided point of view of things. And so, like you said, the same would have been true if it was a Republican what do you say?
Media outlet.
Exactly. Like a Republican media outlet, it would have been a completely different situation, not necessarily for the better or for the worse, but just the fact that these biases can even happen. And it's like when we look at sports and like the Super Bowl, if I don't know shit about these teams, I ain't gonna hold y'all, but correct me if I'm wrong, but when they're doing a Super Bowl, they never have it at either of the teams who are playing home court, right? Or home field, because it would create
it's neutral ground.
It would be neutral ground. So yeah, we, in order to really have the truth of things, to your point, we need to create more neutral spaces. And
let us pull up and film it.
Let us. What you mean? Like,
let us moderate the debate.
Facts.
It'll be the best one ever, I swear.
I think it is, because you're not even asking like questions that matter.
Man,
when they asked
it's
him
ABC questions, bro.
When they asked him about hey, so you said that she wasn't really black. That ain't got shit to do with nothing. Not to say that it isn't fucked up. I'm just saying when it comes to the presidency, like let's really get into
what is the policy.
Let's get into what you talking about. And I guarantee, like I said, I'm not saying either one of them is the ones.
They both bullshitting around a lot of stuff.
I'm just saying, like, let's ask the questions that really, really matter. Yeah. And it's impossible to do on a biased playing field.
Yeah, these politicians, they just sing the same songs over and over. It's just like it's doing a concert. You know, I know my song. I know my talking points. I know my heart-wrenching stories, and you know, it's the same old thing.
Yep.
So other ways to deprogram. A big one for me was taking control of your relationship with social media, and really giving yourself time limits, unfollowing people who post things that make you upset, who post things, that don't make you think, the mindless scrolling, things that aren't taking you towards your higher self.
And I want to be clear about this and I'm sure this is what you're saying, but like not necessarily unfollowing people who make you upset because they're challenging you to think differently, but people who are triggering you are saying things that are like,
that's why I was saying taking you towards your lower self and not taking you towards your higher self. And for those who may not know, because you know at one point I didn't know what was taking me towards my lower self or higher self, but for you to be challenged to think and to question things is a good thing, no matter what that thing is, because you're now connecting synapses in your brain that I'm not just going to go with this answer because I think it. If you disagree, go prove them to be wrong. Go do your research. And those are the types of people who are actually giving some type of information that makes you think deeper than these bullet point answers of this is what it means to be a Democrat. This is what it means to be a Republican. Those are the types of people that I want to follow. So, the mindless scrolling, the advertisements, things that make you just want to go do all the things that we just said, from the capitalism to eating bad foods to, being overly sexually stimulated. Like all of these things take you towards your lower self. And at the end of the day, I think enough of us have a conscience to understand when something is doing something good for us, because even when I didn't want to hear things that made me upset, when I was still trying to figure out who I was, I still knew that it was something that was pulling me to be a better person.
Right.
So yeah, that's when discernment comes in and really just opening yourself up to new ideas and new concepts. And I don't want to be closed off to anything. I don't want, because you check this box, that I don't listen to you. I want to be able to disagree with you on something and still be able to respect you and agree with you on all the other points. And that's part of the programming too, is that someone says something that we don't like, and then we automatically shut out everything else that they have to say.
Yep.
And it is dangerous, and it is literally what we don't like about the other side sometimes, of why they aren't tolerant of things that we do. And then we go back and we do the exact same thing to the other side when it comes to things that they do. So social media is definitely a big one for me.
Yeah.
And then another one for me with deprogramming myself was having solitude and time to really figure out who I was and to research things and to not have other people's perspectives that were already affirming the things that I believed, and to actually go out and listen to the other side of things. And that time was really beautiful for me to be able to, just not have any pressure to, because the people in our lives will constantly reaffirm that we need to keep thinking that way, and to not have the pressure of those people in my life reaffirming those things was really important in a really pivotal time in my life, especially around 2015 and 16. Like when you were on tour with Rihanna at the time, and that's when I did a lot of my unlearning about a lot of the things that I think today. So yeah, solitude is definitely another one. Yeah, just get in an environment that doesn't reaffirm the things you already believe.
And then connecting in spaces that do allow for those sorts of conversations. So then us having those moments of solitude, like me on the road, or you were at home, or when you also were on the road, having your moments of solitude. When I was at home, by myself, and then being able to come together and know that we could have those conversations without judgment,
Yes.
and to feel safe. And even if we didn't always agree, be able to have intellectual conversation about it. And then you make me think about things I wouldn't have, and vice versa. That's important too. Because at the end of the day, I don't think that everyone can or needs to be the thought leader, or that needs to be the free thinking individual. But that does mean that if that's not your calling, or not the responsibility that you want to have, that you find your tribe, and that you open yourself up, like you said, to people who are challenging things, so that you can look at things from a new perspective, and don't shut yourself off to being able to gain knowledge from someone that may not have 100%, be aligned with you on 100% of the things,
Right.
I think, like you said, that definitely does us a disservice to do that, because then it's like, who is this perfect person that you can ever really listen to? Because then you don't ever look at the discrepancies within the things that you already choose to agree with.
Yeah, facts.
Open yourself up.
And then for the parents out there, really considering homeschool is another way of, allowing your child to be able to come out of having all those, the pressures of our youth, and we can all attest to this as adults, is so tough and so influential on the way that we think today, by having the pressures of all these other kids telling us what we should think.
On top of social media.
Yes, exactly,
Child.
man. Because I can't imagine having that along with social media as a child. And these kids are on the iPad from 1 year old, literally. So the programming runs deep, and we have to take back. Because the programming is in the textbooks as well.
Yeah.
And we have to take back our education and teaching our children the things that they need to learn that are from a holistic point of view. Changing your diet, having a better relationship with or better mental health practices, self-love, self-care, whether that's meditation and yoga, being in nature, all the different things that we really drive home here at Let There Be Art, is how you can deprogram from what this world tries to tell us that we have to be.
Yeah, and it definitely does start with the children, because a lot of times, and that us raising a teenage boy, and some of the programming that he experiences from people who are just saying things to him without really even thinking about why they're saying it. Oh, yo, you got you some girlfriends now. It's no, not yet. But it's like,
that was a part of what I was saying earlier about why I thought that was something that I needed to affirm myself as a young man, and that talking to these different girls was something from the music to my uncles to my aunties, even what I'm saying, and y'all hate and even women hating the way that they've been treated still going along with the program because they just heard it so much. You just regurgitate stuff without any thought to it at all, and that's it's really scary, yo.
Yeah, it really is. And so it does start with the children, and we got to do a better job about like asking ourselves why we like put this pressure on them to like continue to perpetuate things that didn't serve us. You
Facts.
know, it's like you're telling them to do this, but then you realize like, man, I wish I had taken more time for myself when I was younger. Like the things that you're telling and encouraging our listeners to do now are the things that we need to encourage our children to do now. You know, instead of like the new HOCO movement, you know, they've rebranded Homecoming, by the way, y'all know they call it HOCO. And it's like, okay, you got to do these promposals or do all these things and like, and like just rushing them into this like, you know, simulation of what adults do. And that's another way to capitalize because now you can sell dresses and you can sell this and sell that. Like, again, it's always about the money. It's never about the well-being or how it actually benefits the people. And not to say that you guys can't have a good time and you can't go to HOCO. I hate calling it that. I don't really want to call it that, but Homecoming
So
or whatever.
stop doing it. You program.
That's what them kids be calling it. But not that you can't enjoy those things, but like, just man, I don't know. It's been very wild raising a young man and having to like explain certain things, even to what you spoke to about watching like A Different World or watching, you know, Will and all. Hey, baby, I'm gonna come dance upon you. And yeah, it was funny and all of that. But like you said, it does create this like pressure of like, oh, well, if I want to be cool, like and suave, like Will or whatever, I guess this is how I gotta move with women, you know. And
Man, Will had like 38 girlfriends.
every episode it was a different girl, and it's like, and again, that's the show. It is what it was. But when we're talking about our children in real life, you know, when we're talking about us raising our kids, we have to actually raise our children and not just allow the iPads and the programming and the television, because it's hidden all up in there too, even if it seems innocent enough, because Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was innocent enough. Like we watched it, you know, and we were able to like laugh about certain things and it was lighthearted, but there's subconscious things that clearly affected the way that you showed up as a man.
Big facts.
And in your relationships or the expectations that you placed on yourself to do something that didn't, like you told me before, that didn't even feel natural for you. It made you feel, but that's just what you felt like you had to do because it was my aunties and my uncles and the media and everybody else around me is saying it. Then dang, I guess if this is what it is to be a young man. And so yeah, we gotta, the things that we are telling our listeners to do now, I would love, another way to break the programming is to start to do that with your children before they're programmed in these ways, because then it becomes more challenging, as we know, to undo those things, whether it's your diet or whatever. Like, yeah, like I know that we want our children to have autonomy, and people ask us all the time, like, how did you get your child to be plant-based? It's like, well, that's because that's what we're going to cook or, you know, what we're going to do in our house. And we give too much power. And I don't even think that it's giving power. I think that it's just an easy way of just allowing the world to program them because it's easier. It doesn't require as much work. And then also because we're programmed, it's hard for us to change. And you don't want to say, do as I say, not as I do. And if you can't live up to the things that you want your children to be, then, you know, you're not going to push them to be greater because then it's a mirror back to you, that uncomfortable feeling that I can't even do this. So let's stop making excuses and stop giving that much influence of the world because we're not able to step up to the plate and be the change that we want for our next generation.
Yeah. Nah, it's a beautiful way to sum it all up. And so, yeah, guys, let's all move towards our charged life. Let's take our kids towards the charged life because, like, they really are the future, as cliche as it sounds. It is much easier to change this world through the next generation than it is for all of us to change based on old programming.
Okay, so we're going to get into our next segment. It's called Gem of the Week, where we highlight an independent creator, whether it's in music, film, food, whatever it is, just someone who's doing something that's beautiful and impactful without using a major system to create it.
Yeah. So I want to do The Lottery of Birth. It was a documentary I watched. Actually, I want to say it was around the time that I was just talking about when you were on the road with Rihanna. But it basically, it just talks about how we're all born into situations that we can't control, which, you know, hence the title, The Lottery of Birth.
Wow.
And that you will be randomly put into this family, into this set of beliefs, a church, whatever it is that ultimately shapes who you are. You know, and whether that's, you know, them putting you in blue clothes or pink clothes as a boy or a girl, or giving you certain toys, all of this stuff ends up shaping and programming us to be what we ultimately are as adults, and how we need to take back that power, you know, as free thinking individuals. So, Kalia, can you let me know who the director and producers were for that?
So it's Raul Martinez and Joshua Von Prague with the Mangusta Productions Company.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so shout out to them. It was a great documentary that was eye-opening for me and making me starting to look and question things. So that's another resource that you guys can take, you know, in your own journeys as you begin to deprogram from what society tries to tell you to do.
Period. I haven't seen that. I'm gonna have to, and I don't even remember you ever telling me about this.
I think I told you about it.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check it out. That's
Yeah,
very interesting.
I have it somewhere. I have to find it. We'll watch it.
You got it on DVD?
Nah, I don't have.
Old school.
Nah, no DVD of it. Yeah, this is 2016. So yeah, it was definitely a file.
Got you.
So we're gonna get into our next segment. So let there be our favorite. This is Sign, Drop, Collab. In the theme of programming and deprogramming, we want to highlight some people who are taking us closer to that deprogramming, and we're going to start out with healers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so the healers are Dr. Sebi. Am I saying that right? Sebi?
I've heard
Yeah.
it both ways. I've heard it Sebi and I've heard
Sebi and Sabi, I've heard.
Sebi, okay. So Dr. Sebi, Dr. Yaki, Queen Afua.
Ooh, I mean, you know, I love.
Do we have to do this together? Or are you going to do
I
your
don't
own?
think we have to do this
All
together.
right, go ahead.
I'm going to. Oh my goodness, that's really difficult. That's very difficult.
I can go first if you want.
I will say that I would. Oh goodness, I would sign Queen Afua because she speaks to me directly as a Black woman. She has been on this journey for so long. Like, she's spoken directly into my life and told me that I was gonna write a book, that I was, you know, empowered me, even on a person to person level. Like, she's overcome so many obstacles, and like is the epitome of everything that we're talking about on this episode, because she was a vegan before it was even, I think they were still calling it vegetarian at the time. Like, she's just so ahead of her time. She's so wise. She's just everything. So yes, I'm gonna sign Queen Afua. I'm gonna collab with Yaki, and really because Dr. Sebi was more of the blueprint, and Yaki took that blueprint and he took it a step further and was able to create so many more ideas and concepts and ways of thinking about things. And I'm sure you want to speak to this more, so I won't hold you on this. But yeah, I think that the additional research that he's done as far as alkaline and, you know, how things break down in our body just took Dr. Sebi's work to a whole other level. So
She said, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm going to let you do it. But this is what he did.
I mean, for me, I'm just saying that's why that is my reasoning for having to drop Dr. Sebi, unfortunately. But they're all incredible, and I'm grateful for each and every one of them.
Cool. So I'm going to sign Yaki, Dr. Yaki, who's a doctor now. When I first got into Yaki, he wasn't officially a doctor because of all the programming that goes into the medical system, but has now, you know, gone through a lot of trouble to be able to put the respect on his name of him knowing so much more than the typical doctor about health and nutrition. So I'm going to sign Dr. Yaki Awakened, an incredible man who has taught me so much about health, the mind, spirituality, everything. He is a holistic
Healer,
polymath healer who knows so much, and so shout out to him. And then I'll collab with Queen Afua, who is another holistic person, or woman, incredible woman who has lifted the vibrations of so many women who are coming into their healing, and something that we need so much in the Black community for us to really come together as family. And she speaks so much on that, as well as what it means for us to be whole as a family. And then, obviously no shade to Dr. Sebi, who was the foundation of a lot of people's, healing journey in terms of their diets and introducing alkaline and pH balance to the people and to the masses, and all that he did to heal people at a time where this was unheard of, in the 80s and 90s, and I think maybe even the 70s for Dr. Sebi, and like you said, was very pivotal in the life of Yaki, which is how he got his inspiration to get into his healing work. So shout out to the three of them and all the people that they have healed.
We're going to sign all of them.
Facts. Next, we got what?
Now we have science. So the three are Terrence Howard, Billy Carson, and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I already know my answer, but I'll let you go first because I don't want to.
No, go ahead. You good. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to sign Billy Carson.
All right, I think ours are going to be the same then. So, this is both of ours based on if I know you like I think I know you.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you would have asked me this like 5 years ago, I would have probably signed Neil deGrasse Tyson because I'm so obsessed with like the cosmos and like that show, like in astrophysics, like all of those things. But again, getting out of my programming and understanding things from a different perspective and outside of the traditional ways that we kind of box ourselves in to learn things. Yes, Billy Carson and Terrence Howard. And honestly, I don't know, maybe ours might not. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you would say we would sign Billy Carson, we would collab with Terrence Howard, and we would have to drop Neil deGrasse Tyson. But and I'll let you speak to.
I would say the same. I look at Neil deGrasse Tyson as smart as he is, and just like I look at the entertainment industry, he is funded by a major corporation in Fox with Cosmos, and which was a big. It's how he was introduced to a lot of the world was through Cosmos. There's agendas and everything that comes along with these big corporations. And it's no different with science than it is with music.
He's a protege of Carl Sagan?
Carl Sagan, who was the original host of it, which again was funded. And we spoke on this in another episode, but just talking about how even our science is funded and only certain things cut through depending on that funding.
Yeah.
And last category is books. So three are The Alchemist, The Secret, and The Four Agreements. Sign, drop, collab.
Dang. That's tough. Because, and I think these are really great books for this category because these are the three books that really were some of the first that I read when I got into like just kind of unlearning and like seeking more knowledge beyond like the normal spaces.
I think I got mine.
Okay, I'll let you go first then. You can go first.
Okay, so I'm gonna go The Four Agreements. I'm gonna sign The Four Agreements. I'm gonna collab with The Secret, and then I'm gonna drop The Alchemist. I'm dropping The Alchemist because I understood a lot of parts of that journey of just, keeping going on your journey and not stopping. I understood that at an early age that was a part of it. I didn't have all the pieces to keep going in, and it was mainly career focused and relationship focused even early on, and making sure I had good relationships. But the healing parts of my self-care weren't there yet. But the overall message I already got. I would say I would sign The Four Agreements over The Secret because, yes, The Secret talked about the power of, basically manifestation and, calling things into your life with that vibration. But once you do that and you're learning how to do that, the 4 Agreements breaks down the nuances of what comes up on that journey of calling different things in your life. Because even if you're calling great things in your life, it comes with a new set of challenges and a new set of people who are going to be higher or more intelligent than people that you may have dealt with a year or two ago. And in that comes the taking things personally and assuming things in these unknown territories of when you are calling those new things into your life. So the 4 Agreements just gave me a way to pinpoint where is this discomfort coming from and being able to break those down into the 4 categories of not taking things personally, always doing your best, don't make assumptions, and being impeccable with your word. And the discomfort will come from one of those 4, and then they ended up coming out with the 5th agreement, which was, I think, to always be skeptical. I think is the 5th agreement. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's something like that.
It's like always be skeptical, but something.
So the 5th agreement is be skeptical but learn to listen.
Yep.
Yes.
But skeptical because most of what you hear isn't true.
Ooh.
Yep. So this goes back to what we were saying about the programming and being open to even when you think someone is wrong, to still listen. And yes, be skeptical, but go do your research to really figure it out so you can get out of your programming. Because so many people, we would just cut people off from a sound bite. And cancel culture is really real these days. And but yeah, so 4 Agreements, definitely signing. How about you?
I think you summed that up so beautifully. I don't even want to muddy it up with anything that doesn't.
Wait, that's the same for you?
I mean, yeah, it honestly is. And I think because you had even mentioned earlier today, how The Alchemist is pretty much a more intellectual Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a narrative that we've heard in our childhood before of just you had the power all along.
Yep.
The journey is you were there from the beginning. So yeah, I mean, not that and I do appreciate the storytelling element of it though, because I think it's a very non-traditional way to go about that kind of
versus the self-help step by step.
Yeah. So it was a fiction book, but it had so much that you could learn from it. But yeah, I think you're right. 4 Agreements provides the foundation for you to know what to call in with the law of attraction that you learn in The Secret. So yeah, but The Secret always has a special place in my heart because that's the book I was reading around the time when I first met you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, I
Cool.
agree. I love it. Let's get into our final segment. It's Let There Be Manifestation.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what do you want to manifest today, babe?
For me, it's going to be, really just the theme of this episode, to question everything, to open your mind, and to have original thought, and to not allow the systems of this world and the money of this world and the capitalism of this world, and the biases of this world control how you think, how you move, how you spend, how you raise your kids. And just for us to begin to pass down better habits, and encouraging the next generation to be asking these tough questions, so we can all raise our vibrations as a society. Because again, like we've said on this podcast before, we are all stronger together than we are, separately living these cookie cutter lives.
Yeah. Ashe. Honestly, I'm with you, babe. I don't feel like it's just a beautiful ending to this.
Cool. I'm leading the way.
Episode.
Let's go.
You're leading the way, King. So yeah, Ashe.
Beautiful. Well, thank y'all so much for tuning in to the Let There Be Art podcast. It's always a pleasure to have these conversations with you, babe. And we'll see you guys next time. Make sure to tune in to previous episodes right up here.
Oh, it's there? You put it there?
Yep, it's right up there.
Oh,
We have an episode about politics that touches on some of this stuff as well, so you should definitely check that out. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.